What's up, everyone? So I've upgraded to Ryzen 3600 after waiting for 5000 series and seeing the pricing. 5000 series would have been ideal and it would have been the perfect upgrade from 6700K. But given the PC parts market going into 2021 and beyond, it's just not great value when you can get a 5600X is double the price of a 3600. And at 3440 by 1440 that I play at, there's actually really minor benefit unless I go into full competitive settings. And so, for the use case, I did need more cores for pushing, for example, higher crowd density in Cyberpunk and things like that. But for the most part, it's just to get my PC more up to date so I'm not running a 5-year-old CPU. And that'll help with anyone that views my vids and is looking for current gen performance. I feel that the Ryzen 3600, even though it was last year's all-round best CPU, it's still one of the best, especially in terms of value. So it puts my PC up there more. It has more in common with the majority of users looking to upgrade or have already upgraded. So anyway, the purpose of this video, I'm just running some quick benchmarks. I had to reinstall the Sapphire Pulse cooler because I did not take into account the PCIe to CPU cooler clearance for the backplate of the Extreme IV when installing a tower cooler on a B450M M80X motherboard. So if I had gone with a full-size motherboard, I wouldn't have had a problem, but yeah, it's just small oversight. And so I reinstalled the pulse cooler, and my temps were horrible. Like, I actually had it thermal throttle and shut down upon reinstallation due to thermal pad thickness on the memory, because I tried using the 3mm pads that I had originally got for the Arctic IV. I didn't have the old pads that came with the Pulse, which I believe were like 1.5 or 2mm. So that was causing the cooler to not contact the GPU core at all. And I had it, like, I was trying to turn it on and wondering, why is the BIOS appearing and then the screen's going black? And that's actually a common stability issue that pops up with people having, like, basically DOA or RX 5700 XTs that have problems out of the box. I actually think it's probably related to hotspot temp, because the actual GPU, once I figured out what the problem was, the actual core temp was perfectly fine. It was the hotspot temp that was pushing 110C and causing it to shut down because it was exceeding 110C. And, also the core clocks were, even in light loads for testing, even when I slightly increased the mounting pressure and tried to fix it the first time, the core clocks were also really low. And I've seen people posting, my 5600, my 5700 XT does not work properly, and it's got low clocks in certain games under low load, and it's like, basically it's like it's throttling, and that's what it seems like. So I analyzed the card, like I took it out of the system multiple times, and I was like looking at the between the plate and the PCB and the core, and I had to get a flashlight because it looked like it was making contact, and it turns out it wasn't. And then I increased the mounting pressure enough to get contact, and that got it playable, but it was still hitting 110 on the hotspot while the core was perfectly fine, like around 65. So then I washer modded it, which is not really something that's been recommended for the Sapphire Pulse cards. It was more of an issue with certain other, I think, Asus models that needed the washer mod, and I think the stock Founders editions also needed washer mods, and that helped with hotspot and core temps. So I figured, why not? I'll try it. I've got some plastic washers that I had from the Extreme IV, washer modded it and tightened it right down. And what do you know? My hotspot dropped by 40C from 110 down to what you can see now. So it was hitting 110 in light load. Like, even my son that plays Scrap Mechanic, it was hitting 110C in Scrap Mechanic at 60 FPS. And now I'm able to benchmark, and it's not really breaking 80C on the hotspot anymore, which might actually be an improvement over the Extreme IV, but I've had to put up with a bit more fan noise because obviously past 2000 RPM, the Pulse fans are noisier than the Arctics. So enough of that. I'll get into the benchmarking, and I'm going to turn my mic off for the rest of the video because, I've got kids screaming in the background. And these benchmarks are just to get my driver benchmarking up to date, because I have been doing driver benchmarks every time a new driver releases, and if I change the CPU, it might affect the results. So I need to get like a baseline that the 3600 can match, or even if it's slightly lower or higher, depending, because I use Metro Exodus and Heaven. If it's slightly lower or higher, if there's any variance, we're going to see that, and it's going to just be more accurate for future testing. So for the next driver release. So this is 21.1.1, and other than the cooler issue, I've had zero problems with Ryzen. I can just quickly show you guys. I don't want to run, because I figured out that hardware info actually has a performance impact, because I was running Signbench with and without, and it actually impacts your score quite significant, like noticeably. Not significantly, it's like a 50-point reduction, but running a simple sensor like this, well, not a simple sensor, but an array of sensors while you're trying to run Signbench or a benchmark actually hurts performance. So I'm not going to run this for the test. You're just going to have to rely. MSI Afterburner seems to be okay, but yeah, I'm not going to run hardware info. This is just so you can see what's going on with the CPU. This is stock, so completely stock, no PBO. PBO is on auto. It might be enabled by itself. And basically, from what I've learned after not having AMD for so many years, this is the core voltage that you want to, if you have a Ryzen CPU, don't worry about VID. VID is what the CPU is asking for the given load. It's what it wants from the motherboard. So it's not what it's getting, it's what it wants. And this one here, SVI2TFN core voltage, is what the motherboard's actually giving it. And I haven't done any heavy tweaking. All I've done is undervolt without losing too much performance. So stock, it was giving 1.37 volts, and the Signbench R20 score, which I'll just share with you guys real quick. Not this one. The Signbench R20 score, auto 1.37, was 3690 CB for the multi Signbench R20. And then I was messing with LLC. LLC mode 1 was just bad, and it gave low scores. It was getting at like 1.35 volts with LLC load light and calibration 1 actually was getting a score like this. So it was dropping too much. I don't understand. Like, the LLC is weird on this board. Like, 1 is meant to be good and more voltage, and it worsened my score, and 6 just seems to be a good number. Like, the voltage that the CPU was getting under loads was matching what I put in the BIOS. So it was closer with LLC6. So I just stuck with that. And yeah, you can see here the scores, like going from 1.37 down to 1.35, and I was still within spitting distance of the 1.37 volt auto voltage. And I didn't try 1.34. Like, maybe it would just be a tiny sacrifice. Like, I could get it even lower, but I do know that 1.325 drops it by a couple hundred points. So that was enough reasoning to go, well, 1.35, and then maybe in between here somewhere there's going to be a 100 point to 200 point drop. So that's not much room. Maybe 1.34 would be the sweet spot, but I don't want to spend all day running Signbench over and over and messing with BIOS settings. I might tweak it when I get the spare time. So yeah, and you can see just real quick, just so you can actually see what I was doing. So this is LLC1 at 1.35, and you can see, like, this is with, I ran these screenshots are with hardware info open, and you can see 3658 CB with, this was on auto 1.37 actually, sorry, I accidentally moved it. And where's the other one? You got to see the top left. I don't know if you can see it. I'll tell you. It's changing because I'm using Honeyview. So 1.35 LLC1 had 3421 CB, and you can see the max voltage was 1.34 on max, and average, well, the average is not that important, but 1.34 was maximum. And yeah, for some reason 3421, that it was LLC1 causing it somehow. Like, it's hard to tell because the maximum does not exactly tell you what it's doing under all core load. it just tells you that the highest voltage it reached was 1.34. But the way that the voltage fluctuates with LLC is different between the different LLC modes. So when I did the same 1.35 but with LLC 6, you can see here the max was actually, where is it? Maximum, I didn't show average on this one, I forgot. But the maximum was 1.337, so it was leet. And so that's actually lower, strangely enough. If I look at this LLC1, like, make sure I'm not going crazy. Yeah, 1.344 versus, how do I drag this? I need to minimize this stuff to get going crazy. Okay, LLC1 on the right, 1.344 versus 1.337. So the peak voltage after running the multi-test was actually lower. And yeah, you can see here, 489. I ran the single on this run as well, because I was actually doing a bit of a stability test with some other programs. But yeah, basically 1.337 for the maximum across the whole benchmark, and then 1.344. It's this one that's the maximum. I've got average showing on this second pick, but that's LLC. This is just the same voltage, LLC 6 versus LLC 1. And LLC 1 is what I expected would improve the voltage. It somehow lowered it. Well, actually, no, it was closer to 1.35 for the maximum. But yeah, I should have got the minimum. I wish I had extended this little window, and I'd have to run the whole benchmark again to get that average. I think the average is actually more relevant to the score and the LLC performance. But yeah, anyway, enough harping on. I just wanted to share that. That's basically all the tweaking I've done. I just changed LLC. I didn't use offset because Auto was giving 1.37, and I wanted to start benching at like 1.32 to see how the processor behaved. And to use offset is just tedious. Like 1.37 to 1.32, I'd need to use like 0.05 offset, and like it had another option that I could set the vCore anyway. Like when you enable offset, there's an option to actually set the vCore, which you can normally set if you just use normal. Yeah, so I'm used to just setting the vCore and then adjusting it from there, and that's what I did. And it still like allows the power saving. I left all the power saving stuff on because I don't sit at my computer constantly, and I'll randomly get up because of my kids. So this is with power saving too. So it's only showing max load here because the benchmark's running. So anyway, yeah, this is a more drawn out video, but I need to fill everyone in on what I've been doing with this CPU so that you don't, like, whether I've been running extreme overclocking or anything like that. I haven't even touched the multiplier yet. It's just, yeah, messing with LLC, seeing how the board behaves. I've got a B450M Mortar Max, and that actually has some weird VRM coil one I'm trying to diagnose too. And I noticed when undervolting a little bit, it actually reduced that whine. So it might just be bad luck, or I need to check under the Mortar Max heatsink, the VRM heatsink. I need to like remount it in case it's loose or something, because this board was from China, I think. It's like a gray market board. But other than that, I mean, everything's running fine. I'm on the latest B450M Mortar Max BIOS, if anyone was curious. I just used BIOS flashback when I was first trying to get the PC running because of the temperature issue with the GPU. So anyway, at least you can see the rough temperatures, but you can use MSI Afterburner because I'm not going to keep that open. And I'll turn off the mic now, and yeah, just skip forward if you want to see the benchmarks. And the next video after this one, I'll be doing some Cyberpunk testing, so you can literally run my old 6700K, like one of my previous videos from like earlier this week or earlier last week, and run it alongside the next Cyberpunk video I put up, and you'll be able to see the 6700K versus 3600 performance in Cyberpunk and how it greatly benefits crowd density, like how it changes the scene so much. Because I can run basically, I can get similar frame rates, but at high crowd density where I was dropping to 30 or under with the 6700K. So yeah, enjoy and thanks for watching, guys. One thing I forgot is there's a bug with Heaven where your minimum will actually be glitched from the start of the benchmark if you don't restart the benchmark a couple times. And I discovered it with the last time I tested with 6700K, and I noticed my minimum was higher from the get-go if I restarted the benchmark. So if the CPU can maintain that high minimum, you'll see it at the end of the benchmark, but if the CPU drops to like 38, which is what the 6700K was doing, then you'll see it still drop like halfway through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get the minimum high from the initial start and see if it holds it. Alrighty. So you can see it's up at 47 there, and this is while recording. So we'll see if it holds it. I was able to get like a similar thing. Like I think the 6700K was at 45, and then like midway through the benchmark it dropped to 38 during one of the scene transitions. So it might just be an inherent minimum that's part of the benchmark, but we'll find out. Alrighty, cheers. Alrighty, so not too bad. It held above 40, which is nice. And this was where I was meant to do it. I made 2 files by accident. Okay, so log, and basically you can see the previous 6700K benchmarks, and these are with the 3600. And I just want to copy and paste that recording on. And for these, what is this? Yes. So yeah, you can actually see those minimums are definitely higher on both runs, like the off and on with the 3600 compared to the 6700K. And I was doing the restart trick to try to get the minimums up, and they would just drop during the benchmark. So I specifically remember that. And yeah, but the average, it's within margin of error, as you can see, 96, 95, 1 FPS, not a big deal. But to have like a consistent 5+, even more, is, yeah, I'd put that down to the 3600, just being able to, for some reason, maybe a background process, it just handles it better. So yeah, then we'll just run Metro Exodus with recording on, and I've already run it with it off. It's more of a GPU heavy benchmark, so there was like pretty much no difference within margin of error, 1 to 2 FPS difference, maybe slightly lower, but it doesn't look like anything I'd worry about, because that's 99. So yeah, alrighty. Let's do the Metro Exodus one. Now Metro Exodus does take a little bit longer to start up, so just forgive me for that. You'll just see like a black screen for a bit while it's launching. A little bit lower again. Interesting. So we'll see if that keeps up. I am running slightly more background tasks, which shouldn't necessarily affect the benchmark running a 6-core CPU, but as well the 6 cores or the 12 threads on the 3600 are at a lower clock speed as well, because my 6700K was at 4.5, and those cores weren't weak by any means. So yeah, it could just be that the higher IPC on the 6700K was beneficial there. But again, looking at the numbers, it's still not really a big deal. It's just a few FPS at most. Definitely not as large a difference as the Heaven benchmark. So yeah, but we'll see. We'll see in the Cyberpunk videos that I'll be putting up soon. So yeah, that's it there, and I can zoom in on that for you guys on smaller monitors. You should be able to see that. So 6700K, and just pause and stop the video. And the Ryzen 5 3600, and you could see those temps at least. That's what I wanted to share as well, as you could see how the temperatures are and how the clock speed is. That clock speed is supposed to be showing just for the CPU in general, so I'm not sure. I think it's the fastest core that's being displayed rather than all the cores. So if someone requests it, I might try to fit that into the OSD to show per core. It's showing per core utilization, but per core clock speed is like for 12 threads is a fair bit to throw up, or for 6 cores, I should say, because the SMT is still going to just be duplicated of whatever the core speed is with 6. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and like and subscribe if you like the content. If there's anything you want to know, just give me a comment and I'll reply back when I can. And I might show a bit of the build log video, but I had my phone go flat 3 times because I don't have a really good phone and I don't have a good camera that can plug into power. So I ran out of storage. So yeah, I've got like random snippets of the build log and up to the part where the Extreme IV didn't fit. So anyway, yeah, catch you later, guys. Bye.